Talking point, a potential penalty. Were you aware at the time of what it was potentially for, or basically what was happening?
I don't know. I think at the time I saw a handball. I didn't know whether it was Mason or Callum. I just carried on. I didn't even know that there was a potential check. I don't know why they stopped it if it was a pen. If it's not going to be a pen, I don't think they needed to stop. The ref even said to H, I heard him say if I say it's a pen, then it's going to cause a lot of talk about it after. So I don't know what happened there. H said that they got told it was a pen. He got told it was a pen by VAR. So I'm not sure.
They asked the ref to go and look at it, and he stayed with his decision.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't understand why he stopped. If he's going to stop, I think maybe you would think he's going to give a pen, because we had the ball, we was attacking. So it's confusing with this VAR, because look, if it's not going to be a pen, and they might as well just carry on the game. They might as well not stop the flow of the game. But yeah, another one that I'm not going to moan about it, because, like I said, the game, I don't think neither team did enough to win.
That's interesting. H, obviously, is his captain, just to translate there, saying that the referee had told Harry Maguire he thought it was a penalty, but if he gave it, it would cause a lot of talk afterwards.
Well, it's not given, it's caused talk afterwards anyway, isn't it? So, look, I'm not sure. I know exactly what he's saying they were in mid-flow and attacking football. I'm not sure they were at the time. And he said if they stop it, then it should be given as a penalty. But I think the VAR have done the right thing. They've given him the option of going over to the screen. Look, we think it might be a penalty, but you need to go over and confirm that. I think that's the right thing to do. But clearly, we think it possibly should be a penalty. But he's been given the choice. He's still refereeing the game for me, which I think was the right thing in the end.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of how VAR should work.
Yeah.
It's still human out. It's still, we can still have a go at the referee if we wanted to, or still agree with the referee, whatever you want. But VAR has absolutely done it. It was definitely right. I think it was Mr. Kavanagh on VAR duty. So I think he was absolutely right to send the referee to the monitor. So VAR has done all it can. Now it's just down to the referee to make his decision. And whether you think it's the right decision or wrong decision, VAR then backs away and says, right, it's down to you. So I think the system worked very well. Whether you agree with it or not, the decision that is, then that's open.
It's not too often we see a referee go against VAR, though, is it, in that instance?
No. And the only thing I agree with Luke Shaw there is when he said both teams didn't deserve to win the game, because he was spot on there. The other stuff where he talks about what the referee said to Harry Maguire, whether he did or didn't. In the heat of the game, refs say things and, it can be misconstrued by the players. In terms of the penalty decisions, VAR did what it's supposed to do. There was a decision that the ref may have missed. He's had a look at it. His perception of the situation is it wasn't a penalty. It's done. We don't want a robotic football. Referees decided, like you said, 50% of people might think it is, 50% of people might, but he's refereeing the game. He had the opportunity, he looked, he decided against it, and, it's just annoying that we're talking about a decision, although there wasn't much else to talk about in the game. But it's one of them things we're going to have to get used to.
And the other thing, from Manchester United fans' point of view, the referee didn't give it a normal time anyway. So you can't say, if VAR hadn't have been here, we would have got a penalty. I mean, it wasn't going to get given anyway. It was only to backtrack to see if I'm making a clear and obvious mistake. And obviously, he thought not.
I think, sorry, Steve, I think if you did a VAR on every corner and you analysed you could possibly make an argument for loads of penalties. Just a little pull of a shirt here, a little nudge there. There's loads of little things, but, it's just a tough one to keep talking about the ins and outs of whether the referees made the right decision. It is what it is.
I think if he'd have given it, we probably wouldn't have been talking about it that much, which goes against what he's probably told one of the players. I think if he'd give it, he said, yeah, it's probably right, it probably is a penalty, get on with it.
Winning the league. OK, it might not be now, but you've got to improve and improve and improve to get to the standard of a Manchester City. But that's just safe today, to me, both of them. I've not really enjoyed watching Tuchel's team so far in his Chelsea reign. Yes, he's getting some decent results, but as the guys mentioned earlier, they played against some of the lesser teams in the league and, kept clean sheets, but not been emphatic in any way. And Manchester United, I mean, there's world-class players on that pitch, and I just feel they're not being allowed to show how good they are. Neither team. I think there's so much more to give, and I think both managers need to You know, if you're going to go and catch... If you want top four, then, OK, today was fine. I bet you both managed to go home and reasonably happy. But come on, Manchester United, Chelsea, the two most successful teams in the Premier League history. They've got to be going to try to win the league or build towards that for next season. And playing like that, I just don't think there's any progress there. I think they're almost shackling their top players.
OK, I can feel plenty of frustration in the studio. Much more to come from these three, but we are 3 down on this Sunday. One more to come. The weekend, of course, began with the runaway leaders winning again, but they were made to work for it at home to West Ham. West Brom beating Brighton, Villa winning at Leeds, and 1-1 between Newcastle and Wolves. Today, another point and clean sheet for Fulham. Defeat for Leicester at home to Arsenal, and for Burnley by 4-0 at Spurs, but no goals at Stamford Bridge. And next, we're going to watch the champions, who have lost their last 4 league games away at the bottom club, Sheffield United, and of course the match week rounds off. The Monday Night Football is from Goodison Park, Everton against Southampton. So at the top, Manchester City's lead is 12 points. United couldn't cut it again to 10, but United are a point ahead of Leicester, who were beaten today. Then come West Ham, who remain in those Champions League places. A Chelsea win would have dislodged them, but they are a point clear of Thomas Tuchel's team. As you can see, Liverpool can go within a point of Chelsea and within 2 of West Ham if they beat Sheffield United next. And indeed, Everton can as well if they beat Southampton on Monday. So Fulham's point takes them to 23, 3 behind Newcastle and Brighton. And Burnley still might be nervously just looking over their shoulder. Their gap is 5 points to Scott Parker's side. So 0-0 then at half-time at Stamford Bridge. No goals to talk about, but one big question in that first 45 minutes. Should Manchester United have had a penalty? First opinion, Michael Owen.
To be honest, Steve, I think not. I don't think it's a penalty. However, when it went to VAR, when Stuart Atwell went to the monitor, I thought this is definitely going to be a penalty now, because we've seen loads of penalties given for far less than this season. So I think in the modern... This season, I think it is a penalty. However, what I'm saying is I don't like to see that as a penalty.
Paul, yes or no?
I think, the more I look at it, I think it is. I think his arm's in an unnatural position there, and it touched his arm, so... And when it goes to the monitor, I'm thinking, how does he not give that, really? It should have been a penalty, but, look, he's not give it. Move on.
Joe?
Yeah, looking at there, I mean, clearly he's touched it with his hand, but then we're in vague with the rules. I think what he's trying to do there is trying to get his body across. You know, so he's using his arm as the first port of call to then let the ball come in and go on a counter-attack. He just gets it wrong. It would have been harsh.
Let's speak to Dermot Gallagher, the former Premier League referee. Dermot, when Stuart Atwell goes across the monitor, what is he looking for?
I think in his own mind he'll have felt that Chris Kavanagh's felt that it's handball, that's why he sent him. I think he goes with an open mind, he goes to look at himself, but that's got to be in the back of your mind. I think Chris Kavanagh's done really well as VAR because he's given him an option, hasn't he? That he's given the option to give a penalty if he feels it is. He's given the option to stick with his decision. In view of what's happened this season, I'm in Michael's camp. I think we might not like it, but we've seen it all season that when the hand's above the head height or the shoulder height, penalty's going to be given. And I think what we discussed last week, a modern-day penalty, I think that's a modern-day penalty, and it would have been easier to give it.
Never mind this season. If I could take you back to just yesterday, you probably slept in a dark room since, but your Koshlu of West Bromwich Albion, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is watching this, he's going to say, what's the difference, is there?
Well, I've already spoken about this before I come on to somebody else and said, you know, it's all right saying it's not a deliberate act, but I don't think this is a deliberate act. It's all about how high his arm is. It's come very quickly at him. A penalty was given. As I said, I think in the modern game that's a penalty. And this one, I actually think when you see that, it's what I call a modern-day penalty. I'm surprised it wasn't given.
Joe's shaking his head here.
No, I don't think the West Brom one, you said not a deliberate act. I think it was a deliberate act, because when you're marking a player in the box and he steals a march on you, that little bit, that moment of panic sticks in. So I think he's, obviously wrongly, but I think he's put his hand up there because he's in a moment of panic. He thinks he's going to lose the header. So I think that was right. But I think the Callum Hudson-Odoi one was so minute. I can't see how you can give it for that when it's just bobbling, it just clips his finger. But that's the day we're in now. We're unsure of the rules.
It certainly is. Dermot, thank you very much indeed. Talk to you later. You talked about the tactical lineup between the two teams. From Manchester United's point of view, particularly, what have you made of it, Michael?
Yeah, I think Scholesy mentioned a point early on in the game, and that was that the sitting midfield players for Manchester United really do protect those centre-halves. And the centre-halves are the problem we feel in this Manchester United. That's why they don't dominate games, because they can't sustain attacks. They're not close enough to their front players to actually pick up the ball. And you've spotted a couple of occasions, Scholesy, that's happened.
Yeah, I think that's a problem. They cannot stay in their art. They can't sustain attacks, as I said. It should be very easy for them to play out, but they seem so worried about protecting the centre-halves. And on a day like today, they don't need protecting. Giroud's got no pace. Ziyech, I don't think, has got any pace. Mason Mount has hardly had a kick of the ball. But that's the perfect one where, look, there must be 40 yards of space between a midfield player and the forward player. Now, if you're going to go into games wanting to win games, your midfield players, they can't just sit as a back four, sit as two centre-halves, basically. You need to contribute to the game. You can do your defensive stuff, of course you can, but you've got to get involved with the forward players as well. And midfield players are about doing every single job on a pitch, being involved in everything. At the minute, they're playing almost centre-half and protecting two centre-halves that against Chelsea don't need protecting.